What's up, guys? If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Also, please smash that like button on the video and enjoy the show.
So he goes to Northport, and that's when I get the call that I tell you, because the story eventually came out. So I said, I have to go meet this guy, all right?
Oh, the doc.
Yeah. So I hop in the car with one of my agents. I was in Manhattan, my office in Manhattan. We drive out there. And I meet this guy, and he looks like a movie star. He looks like he just came off the golf course with sunglasses and well-tanned. And I'll tell you something.
We'll put his picture in the corner of the screen, by the way. There he is.
Yeah, you can see the one with the sunglasses, and that's the way I saw him, just like that one over there.
Yeah, save
right.
both of those if you can, Alyssa.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, if I didn't know, let me tell you this. If my daughter brought him home and said, hey, Dad, here's my new boyfriend. He's a doctor at the VA hospital, an ex-Marine. I'd say,
great.
Welcome to the family. Wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I'd say, welcome to the... And so handsome and so charming, you know? Well, when I went there to meet him, he gives me that same story, you know, the bar and brawl, the whole thing. And then I said, wow, you know, Doc, thank you for clearing this up. I said, thank you very much.
You knew about the story had come out, though, right?
Yeah, I knew. He didn't know that I knew, but I knew. And I said, you know, while I'm here, just so I could kind of close things out, can I have permission to, like, just search your room? And that's when he wasn't Mr. Personality anymore. That's when he said, no, and had us leave. And then I called up the U.S. attorney out on Long Island. She said, look, Bruce, you don't have any evidence yet that he committed any crime on Long Island, so I can't even give you a search warrant or anything yet. Next thing you know, Swango's gone.
Wait, can we stop for 1 sec? I want to go back to that, when you were in there with him. So you're having this full conversation. He's nice as could be. You're playing the role, trying to make him feel comfortable. And then you ask him to search the place, which, you know, if you don't have probable cause, it is a constitutional thing. But you said he changed up, and he said no. Was there any, you know, we think of this like from the movies sometimes, but it does happen in real life. Like I think of the movie Inglourious Bastards, that first scene where, you know, Christoph Waltz is sitting with a guy Christoph Waltz is a Nazi. He's sitting with a guy who is harboring Jews who have not been taken to the camps. And the Nazi thinks it, but the other guy's playing like he doesn't. And then there's a moment where the face breaks and the Nazi sees it, and it just all, like, did you have a moment like that where you knew, oh, this isn't just a constitutional thing. This isn't just my suspicions tinkling. Like, he's doing this.
Yeah,
1,000%.
I would say that's a great analogy. I would say absolutely. And not only me, but the agent that was with me. We both felt the same way. But there wasn't anything we could do at the time. He packed up and left. He went to Zimbabwe, Africa, because there's a real shortage of doctors in Zimbabwe, Africa.
Oh, God.
And when he's in Zimbabwe, Africa, he killed women and children and pregnant women and poisoned his landlady and just did all kinds of terrible, terrible things there. Well, he was ready to move on. He was ready to move on to another country, but he had to return to the United States to renew his passport, and that's when we arrested him. But not for murdering anybody, because we didn't have any evidence that he murdered anybody on Long Island, all right? But we did have evidence of every federal agent's favorite crime, lying to the government. U.S. Code 1001 is everyone's personal favorite in the government. If you lie to the government, if you lie on a form, if you lie to an agent, it's a felony. All right? Many police departments wish they had that, but they don't. But we had it in the federal government.
What did he lie about?
So he lied about his background because he wasn't in jail for that barroom brawl. He lied about just about everything on his background and his paperwork, and then he lied to me. And then he was able to prescribe medication, which he shouldn't have been able to because he shouldn't even have been a physician at that particular time. So he gets 3 years in jail for lying to me, which I kind of felt okay about, but I knew what's going to happen at the end of 3 years. So the assistant U.S. attorney out in Long Island, two guys that were just wonderful guys, they said, Bruce, this is your window right here to try to prove that he murdered some of our nation's heroes right here at the Northport VA. Get working right now.
You have a clock.
Yep. Now, I had never done a case like this before. Never done a homicide case. With all the other cases I've done, never done. So I called up my boss in Washington, D.C., and he says, Bruce, don't worry. We're going to hook you up with the right person. Dr. Michael Baden. Dr. Michael Baden.
Oh, the GOAT. The GOAT.
Is a forensic medical examiner. He was a forensic medical examiner for the city of New York, for Suffolk County. And he's always on TV. He had his own show called Autopsy.
This is the guy who did, I believe, Michael Jackson, Jeffrey Epstein.
Yes.
I'm missing a ton in there.
Actually, he was involved when they redid the Kennedy assassination the second time.
Oh, that's right. That's how that was his claim to fame. Right. Yeah. I had a woman in here a year ago, Nancy Solomon, who did an amazing job reporting on this wild case in New Jersey. And she talked with him because the family brought him in. He does like a lot of private.
He does. He's still working, close to 90. Still working.
Crazy.
He's an amazing guy, really amazing guy. So I went to the state police, and the state police said, well, Bruce, we can't really help you. But Michael Bond said, I don't care if the state police is going to help you or anybody else is going to help you. I'm going to help you. And he says, this is what I want you to do. He says, we are going to assemble a team. And this is who's going to be on this team. He says, I'm going to be the forensic pathologist. Then you have to find a physician who's expert in chart reviews, who can review all these charts and make a determination, in his opinion, whether the patient should have expired when they did or not. All right? Then there's this relatively new profession at that time called forensic nursing. These are nurses that are trained in both forensic science and nursing. And they were wonderful.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Oh, yeah, because they could bridge the gap between what these high-level scientists are saying and what lay people like myself could actually understand. They were just amazing, amazing people. And then we need toxicology. So we asked the FBI lab to do the toxicology. They turned us down.
They turned you down?
Yeah, they turned us down. You see, there had been another case that they had worked on, and it didn't have a successful conclusion, so they didn't want to get involved in another one of these cases. So we had to go to a private lab known as National Medical Services in Pennsylvania. They're the largest private forensic lab in the country. And the question is, could you find traces of these certain poisons in embalmed tissue? Because most of the victims had already been buried and, embalmed and buried. And are we able going to find what we think may be poisons in their body? And they said yes. So we assembled this team.
How do you do that?
Well, I'm going to tell you exactly how they did it. Okay. So we assembled this team. And the first thing we did is we pulled every medical record of every patient that was at the Northport VA when Swango was there. Why? Because he used to like to roam around the entire hospital. So we didn't know actually who his victims may be. Okay. And we this team narrowed it down to about 6 good cases where they felt that these patients should not have expired when they did. And also something interesting, the families never suspected that the patient would die when they did. If you ever had a loved one in the hospital that's near death, well, the family kind of knows, the staff knows. Death doesn't come as a total shock to you. In these cases, it was just the opposite. These people were actually sometimes improving, and the family would say, hey, Dad's getting better. We could go on vacation now. We'll come back and we'll see Dad when we come back. Only to get a phone call from Swango that Dad had expired.
Oh, he'd make the call too?
Yeah, because you see, this is his second bite at the apple. The first bite is actually poisoning the people. The second bite is calling up the families and reliving the experience in front of them or on the phone on how their dad suffered the last 30 minutes of his life. Could you imagine getting a call like that?
What is that? Like what?
That's his second bite of excitement and power.
Power.
His first bite of power is actually murdering people. The second bite is shoving it in their family's face. Pretty scary, terrible things.
Yeah,
terrible things. So we narrowed it down to these 6 cases, all right? Well, what do we do next, Doc? He says, now you're going to have to go to the cemetery and dig up their bodies. I said, do we really have to do that? And he said, hey, Bruce, you don't ask a forensic toxicologist if you need an exhumation. It's like asking a barber if you need a haircut.
Right.
He says, no, we got to do it. So how do we do this? Well, we got a court order, and then we would go to the families. And me or one of my agents would knock on your door, and they would say, excuse me, sir, my name is Bruce Sackman. I'm with the Inspector General of the VA hospital. We have reason to believe that your dad's death may have been of a suspicious nature. Can we have your permission to go to the cemetery and dig up his body and run some test?
But how confused are people right away? I'd imagine pretty confused. No?
Yeah, the families were wonderful. They were wonderful. Sometimes the families would want to be there at the cemetery to see when we actually exhumed the bodies. And if like a daughter came or a mom came, my agents would bring flowers for them. We try to be very, very respectful. So all of a sudden I find myself at a cemetery. I've never done anything like this before. And I find myself at the cemetery, and there's the backhoe, and it's digging up the grave, and then the coffin is coming out of the ground, and all this water, starts coming out of the coffin. And then I see Michael Baden jump into the gravesite and starts taking soil samples. I said, what are you doing? He says, well, Bruce, if there's arsenic in the soil and we find arsenic in the body, they're going to claim that it just creeped into the body from the soil.
How does that, but how would it even get through it?
It could get through because unless there's like a concrete crypt, which there wasn't in these cases, it could get through.
I was going to say, because I never knew about that, but I had a guy on who explained that. He said there's always a crypt, so I guess back then there wasn't.
Well, a lot of people didn't have crypts. That was an extra cost.
So it's just the...
Yep, just put in. So then I find myself at the Suffolk County Medical Examiner's office. Now, this is a cultural experience for people who have never done anything like this before. There are bodies open.
Yeah.
Body parts on the side. They do that Y incision.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me. When we brought some of the assistant U.S. attorneys in there, they had to turn around and walk out. They couldn't handle it. Not everybody could handle it, So Michael Baden, through one of these patients, he takes out a heart and he says, Bruce, you see this heart? There's nothing wrong with this heart. This patient didn't die from heart disease, like it says on the death certificate. There's something else that killed this patient. There's nothing wrong with this heart. This heart is fine. Wow.
So he's pulling a heart out of a patient that you just pulled out of the ground, who might have been in there for a couple of years at this point, and you can make that determination?
He made the determination, and they took a number of samples of tissue and blood to send to the lab for toxicology. Now, you asked me, how could the lab determine, especially in embalmed tissue, whether there's actually poisons in there? So I asked Dr. Frederick Reeders, who at the time was the president of National Medical Services, just a great guy. And he said, Bruce, don't worry. He says, we have this brand new machine. It's called the liquid chromatography tandem mass spectrometer. How's it work? Hey, Bruce, you wouldn't understand. You couldn't understand. Maybe you shouldn't understand, but I'm just telling you. We put a little sample in. To me, it's like Willy Wonka. They put a little sample in and it goes around, around, comes out. First thing he says, Bruce, we found traces of succinylcholine. What's that? Well, in the hospital, they call it sucks. It's actually a paralytic. If they want to put a tube down you, it temporarily paralyzes you, so they could put that tube down you. Too much of it will kill you. And the other drug we found in different patients is epinephrine. Epinephrine, speeds up the heart. And if not used properly, it could kill you. And we found traces of that. Wow. Okay. Swango's about to get out of jail. And he's just ready to hop on that plane, and he's ready to go to Saudi Arabia. That's going to be his next place. All right. At the same time, he's about to get out of jail. Boy, we got lucky.
Wait, he can go to Saudi Arabia right away after getting out of prison?
Well, that was his plan. That was his plan. You know, there was a real shortage of doctors there, and he may have finagled his way.
Oh, he's still a doctor at this
Yes,
point.
he's still a doctor.
They still haven't revoked him.
He's still a doctor.
Oh, my God.
So he gets on, so he gets out. But anyway, a good thing, a really great thing happened just when he was about to get out. The government of Zimbabwe entered into an extradition treaty with the United States, and they had a warrant for his arrest, charging him with the murders of women and children and pregnant women. And they were just anxious as all hell to get their hands on that guy. So Swango gets out of jail, and he's given this offer. He says, look, you know, you could plead not guilty and go to trial, but even if you win, well, this guy over here, me, is just going to put you on a plane and drop you off on the tarmac in Zimbabwe because we have an extradition order for you right here.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. Please hit that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.